Welcome to the GLAC studio. This is Gomathi, Siva Sankaran, founder CEO, the Guiding Light Art Company, building bright futures through art. Today, in the 8th episode of the GLAC What Next series, Change Management in Practice, we are meeting someone who has been changing herself, shaping herself time and again as a journalist first, and then moving on to become an MBA, and also finding herself in a different country, learning different language, at the same time managing careers. At the Copenhagen Business School's MBA program for 9 good years, and now she is a founder of Shapes and Layers, a podcast that is focusing on women of color, interviewing people, getting to know more about their lifestyles and also how they are doing their businesses. So this is someone who's been constantly shaping herself and changing herself and learning all the time. Without much ado, let's get on to the show, meet her personally and get to know the challenges that she faces and how she is approaching change management in practice. Let's meet THULI Skosana. THULI, welcome to the GLAC What Next series, Change Management in Practice. I am super happy to be interviewing you. This is 9 years down the lane since we met.
Yes.
I have a lot to talk about, and I can go on and on and on, but this is your show, so I would let you first to introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's really nice to catch up with you, and thank you for the invitation. So my name is THULI Skosana, and I am South African originally. Moved to Denmark just over, 12 years ago, and did my MBA there. And soon after that, I had an opportunity to actually work with student recruitment at the MBA. And that's how we met. I still remember your essay, by the way. It was absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
And I stayed there for quite a while. And I've recently stopped working at the MBA. Actually, let me not say recently, about a year ago. I kind of switched gears and went back to my true passion of storytelling and trying to combine that with a little bit of entrepreneurship. I am now the founder and the host of a podcast called Shades and Layers.
That's a lot that you have nicely packaged in very small, tiny bit, but I would like to go back and unpack a little more.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot, To start with, I know that you have a background in journalism, and then you have been in Cape Town. So just tell us a little bit about the story of what made you take the MBA decision.
So the start of my career. So, I studied journalism as soon as I left high school. And while I was studying, I found that I had a deep, deep passion for urban culture and also, storytelling. And while I was at university, I met two friends who eventually became my business partners. Because when we graduated, we knew that there was maybe no space for the types of ideas that we had. We approached one of our journalism professors and we said, we want to start an urban culture magazine, a music magazine. And he looked at us and thought, oh my gosh, they're going to have their hearts broken. Because it was just so difficult at the time. It was barely a year after South Africa had its independence, its first democratic vote. So this was 1995, 1996 or so.
Yeah.
But straight after that, we decided that we're going to put our ideas and create a magazine. Went around pitching, very passionate 19, 20-year-olds, clueless, but brave enough to take, a step like that. And, eventually, we didn't get a magazine deal, or we didn't get a deal that we thought was good enough for us. So basically, we would have been working for other people, which was not the idea in the first place. The idea was owning an entity that was that represented the market that we were part of, and also was something that we could leave behind, kind of a legacy. And so we decided to put the magazine online, which was more or less the first, exactly. So we're talking 1998 or so,
That's what I'm imagining, 1998.
Exactly, when it was still called e-zines. So we launched that, rage.co.za. So it was the first of its kind. And we were learning as we were going along. And little did we know that it would lead into other avenues of expression and representation of urban culture or South African youth culture. So from there we started doing television production. We were one of the first young companies, Black owned, that were contracted to an Africa-wide television network called Channel O. It was a music TV channel.
Okay.
And, we were producing programs for them. And we were writing scripts for that channel, the entire channel. My goodness, what work it was. It was very exciting, but also really, really quite demanding. So a lot was learned in terms of, running a project, running a show, getting yourself organized, ideating and putting things out there, and also just learning the broadcast industry. So that was really, really an exciting time. And, we created something that I suppose amounts to an institution. People are still excited about it, and it's always so rewarding when a young person reaches out and says, hey, I became a journalist because of what you guys did, etc. That was a pretty cool, little entity that we created, and it was fun. It was growing and growing, and unfortunately, I think we were growing way too fast. Yeah, we were growing for our capacity anyway. So we knew absolutely nothing about business management. We were all graduates of journalism school. And we had this passion and this idea. And, of course, we learned a lot about business, but it was never quite enough, which is where the idea for doing an MBA came from. You could only learn so much it would have taken much longer if, let's say, I had not acquired the skills that you could acquire from an MBA. So the idea was, okay, one of us at least needs to be able to run this baby, make sure and show its growth, and take it somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I signed up for the MBA, which ticked all the right boxes because there's a strong entrepreneurial program at CBS. Also, it was abroad, so new ideas, new ways of doing things, and also the sustainability element. We always knew that whatever work we were doing had to have an impact. Back then, it was called corporate social responsibility. And that was a very strong element too. And, there was also, let's not forget the financial aspect, the Danida scholarship. So I came in as a fellow of the Danish institution called Danida. They awarded me a scholarship for attendance at CBS. And, there was an agreement between Denmark and South Africa that, students would be educated and then return back home to impart their skills. Unfortunately, 2008 came, so I was away at the wrong time. Credit crunch, everything fell apart. Our clients all filed for bankruptcy or some kind of bailout. We quickly had to scale down. And by scaling down, that was honestly the end of it. So when I had to go back to South Africa, it was really to go and wrap up the business that was the company Black Rage Productions. So that was very difficult.
It is, yeah. It's your baby. It's your baby. Yeah.
It was really, really heartbreaking, and it took a very long time to kind of, recover from that.
I can imagine.
And mentally.
I mean, you come with an idea to use your MBA skills and grow the company, and then the crisis hits.
Yeah. No, it was. I mean, there was, whatever pivot we tried to do at the time, it was more or less impossible because there was not enough cash. So if you don't have the cash flow, then you cannot finance the ideas, and nobody was lending money, but also money was still a little expensive at the time in South Africa anyway. You couldn't just borrow as easily as maybe you could if you were in Denmark, where interest rates were already dropping. But, it was still expensive to borrow money. And it was a lesson learned. So I've learned quite a lot, studying a company, wrapping up a company, which takes a long time, like years. And, also wrapping it up in an orderly way, in a civil way, in a way that makes everybody feel good, because people lost their jobs.
Yeah.
And
imagine.
Yeah. And we all three lost a life's work. So that was quite something. But all the same, I mean, I went back to Cape Town to try and work at something, and I spent a brief time there working in a public-private partnership, studying how cities are designed, and the creative, working for the creative side of city management. So that was an exciting brief stint. And
And then you come back to Denmark.
Yeah, life was calling at that time. My then boyfriend had moved back to Denmark because he found a job in Copenhagen where we met.
Yeah.
So he had come to join me in Cape Town briefly. So, and one thing I will advise anybody on these cross-border relationships, paperwork is a nightmare. But we knew I could get a green card for Denmark, and that was honestly the easiest way to stay together. So I came back to Denmark and joined him there. And I worked briefly for an an events company that was organizing, innovation professionals in big corporates and big corporations. And, it was a network basically of people working in innovation. And as when my contract expired there, I called the MBA office and I said, yeah, by the way, I'll be free very soon. If you know anybody who's hiring. And the admissions manager at the time, Lee, said, as it turns out, we actually need somebody to come and help at the program. And with your skills, and your knowledge of the program, you are suitable. Yeah, okay, fine. Let's do that while I'm learning Danish and getting myself established. Yeah, why not? It was not full time at the time, so
no.
Yeah, but then I fell into this industry of education, business education. My goodness, what fun I had! No, seriously, it was.
Apart from journalism, radio, television, or
but I transferred a lot of skills into that work because it was a communications job, and it was a sales job as well. So two of the things that I could enjoy doing. I still got to work with people, especially young people, which has always been my passion. Always working with young people and dreams, making people's dreams come true, or your own, vision, kind of helping people realize their visions. So that was from that perspective, that's what made it so addictive. And then there was the international travel element.
Yeah.
So I was hopping on a plane every second month on a recruitment drive, or every month, I should say. So it was very varied. No 2 days were ever the same, which was exciting enough. And I still got to do a lot of media stuff, organizing the brochure, video production, interviews, writing for the website, etc. Before the program grew, and of course that work was outsourced. But admissions was
handling everything. I remember you were handling mine.
Yeah. So everything was folded into one job. So that was really exciting and very busy, and appealed to many, many different aspects of the type of work I enjoy doing. So that was fun. And, I made it work. I was very proud of having successfully made that transition.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then 9 good years. And right now, where are you?
Right now, I'm living in Seattle. So about a year ago, before the pandemic hit, I resigned from CBS because I knew I wanted to return to being independent. But also it coincided with a time in my life where I was reconsidering, okay, what's next? I've done this, business education for 9 years. Now it's time for a change. What do I want this to be? Yeah. And I wanted something that would take me back to my passion for storytelling. Yes. I've always loved doing radio, and I missed it immensely. Of all the jobs that I missed that I had done previously, I think radio is the one that always spoke to me. There's something about, having meaningful conversations, but also the work that goes on behind, putting it together, finding, researching the interviewees, finding the story angle, and then, reaching out to these people, speaking to them, and, building a rapport, and then doing the interview itself. And also I actually missed the act of editing because it's so manual, technical, and also, you can get lost in it. So that aspect also, I just, I think I missed it a lot. So, I had to think about all these things, could I eventually monetize? Yeah, yes, I could. And, my children are still small. So that was the other thing that influenced my decision. I was traveling way too much for somebody with small children. With my job. And, I just saw the window narrowing and they're getting bigger and bigger. And I wasn't spending enough time with them. So I just thought, okay, let's take a step back, rethink everything. Yeah. And then try and get started. And then came March, almost like 2 weeks to the day when I was going to have my last day of work. We had a lockdown in Denmark.
Exactly around the time that was.
What's going to happen now? But I had no doubt in my mind that I'd made the right decision. There was absolutely no doubt. It was time to move, and I trusted that, and started working on getting a production going. And during lockdown, I was doing interviews. And then I started publishing bit by bit in June of last year. Every second week I was publishing a new episode, writing up on it, posting on social media, etc. And now I'm, I think, 18 episodes in. So I'll be celebrating my my full year of podcasting.
Wow, congratulations.
June, thank you. But, in between there was a lot of downtime. We moved continents. Basically, there was a stop on immigration from the U.S. side. We were temporarily displaced, I would say. It's a dramatic word to use, but, there were 6 months where we weren't sure what's going to happen. Are we going to move to the U.S.? Are we going to stay in Denmark? Do we move on to Italy, where my husband comes from? What's going to happen? We were trying to move closer to family when I stopped working at CBS, but, then the U.S. opportunity came, and We eventually managed to make it here in November of last year, and we've been getting settled, trying to get settled here in the Pacific Northwest.
Wow. That's so much of change management in practice. That's a heavy dose, I think.
I tell you, I keep a journal, right? So when I go back and review all the stuff, I'm always thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot of things that that have happened in a short space of time. I mean, it's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see how you have been growing from strength to strength in spite of the challenges and building this base.
I think I've got a very strong I would say feeling, or it just feels right. I don't, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I do not have any scientific proof or any hard data, Of course, I've done radio before, so I know I've got skills to execute what I want to do. And I've done radio both from news perspective right through to entertainment. So I've done both types of radio, and I'm pretty reassured in the type of work that I want to do. So there's that, that kind of gives me security. I've also taken the time. It was a very sober decision, of course, to leave, office life and pursue this path. So, I know that I will be fine because I have been working towards, I have saved up for this period in my life, but also, it's something that I've wanted to do. There's something driving it, which is not describable. There's a lot of passion. There's also instinct that comes into play. But also, it's not a a random decision. It's very sober, very well thought out, and I've got an idea of where I want to take things. It's going slower than I expected or than I planned, but the world is what it is right now.
I agree. I still have one question to ask. When you took a decision and you were also planning parallel to move the family from one country, another continent, and then COVID happens, did you feel pushed, or did you want to back off at any minute? And what was going on in your mind?
No, not once did I want to back off. I think, yes, it was shocking to have this lockdown. But like I say, there was absolutely nothing that could have changed my mind and made me, go back to an office life, so to speak. This is the direction I wanted to take. I mean, I don't know what will happen in a year from now, or how things will look, or what decisions I will take based on the life that will eventually emerge when things open up. But, at the time, I mean, I knew that we want to take, or at least, I wanted to take a step closer to being independent and running my own entity. I didn't know what how long it would. Let me say, I had an idea of how long it would take, but I didn't know it would be disrupted so dramatically. Yeah, because initially it was like, okay, 12 months, full speed. Let's go for it. Let's see what happens. But of course, that I had to stretch that. I had to sit down and say, okay, let's be realistic here. Everybody's on a slow down. You're not going to be meeting people in person, and it makes a huge difference when you see a person face to face versus when you're speaking to them via Teams, etc. So that kind of changed the dynamics of the type of meetings I wanted to be having and the type of conversations I wanted to be having. But we adapt. you work with what you have. If there's anything I also learned from bootstrapping at age 20 is that anything is possible. You just have to start where you are, work with what you have, and try and make it happen. It's incredibly frustrating at times, and the isolation of COVID has also made it feel like, oh my gosh, this is very exhausting. But every single time, even when I'm feeling very challenged, there's nothing is swaying me from this direction. It's incredibly testing, but at the same time, deep down, if I sit down and I don't get carried away with the noise of every day and whatever distractions or disruptions I experience, then I just okay, come on, Thuli.
That is amazing.
And then I'll have invitations like this, and I'm like, you see?
Amazing. I think with around 9 years of experience meeting people who have just dreams and want to build something with themselves, with their careers, you would have seen different people all the time. And these questions, I think you are the best to write to help many on what you think, what is your take on these generic questions that people have in their mind, To start with, how does one go about identifying a career path?
Wow. Oh my goodness. That is not a linear thing. But I think there's something to be said for being prepared to take advantage of opportunities that come towards you. You've got to be ready.
Yeah.
So, what are you good at? That's one of the things. What are you passionate about? What skills do you have? And, where's the gap between where you are and where you want to be? And how can you fill it? An MBA certainly is one option for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But, during my time at CBS, there are people I would discourage in a kind way from doing an MBA because it would not be the right decision. And it would be a disservice, to tell somebody that this is what is going to boost your career or this is the right way to get to where you're going. Not everybody needs to take that path. But in terms of, making that choice, I think, I would say look at the industry you want to be in, what skills you need to be in that industry, where you are, and what you need to get there. If it feels like it's exciting and you've met people in that industry that you want to be like, you want to emulate, and you like what they're doing, you like the nature of the work that they are doing, and it is something that is meaningful to you. And I think this is key. Does it mean anything to be doing this work, or are you just, passing time, So I think if you can find the meaning behind your actions, then you're in the right direction. And then while you're in that job that you found, take time to build up your skills, explore, learn, attend conferences, attend meetings that you wouldn't ordinarily find yourself in, workshops you wouldn't ordinarily find yourself in, stretch yourself, test yourself. And then you'll be ready when an opportunity that you didn't expect to come, because things move so fast these days, every 2 years you look and you see, okay, fine. So where am I? Am I still going in the right direction? Is this what I really want to do? And I think that space is going to get shorter and shorter, with the technological advancements. I mean, the world is moving super fast. It used to be every 5 years, would review, but I think people are moving even faster than that. It's every 2 years that you see the changes, the leaps, people are moving much, much quicker.
Yeah.
And also doing, vastly different things from where they started out.
Yes.
So I think the path reveals itself as you live every single day. You acquire new skills, meet new people, and you explore new opportunities. You just have to go in with an open mind and an open heart, and soon enough the path will reveal itself. It could be a chance meeting, just a conversation with someone, and it resonates on some level. And if you're ready and you haven't just been sitting, pushing paper, watching the clock, then you'll be able to say, hey, I've got this and that. I can do this and that.
Yeah.
You think it would help you in this way? No, it's not you. Then who's the right person? And you just kind of keep moving as long as it's in the direction that feels right. That's the way I would say. I don't know if you can still speak of careers anymore, but
that's so true. That's so practical.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question is, now that somebody is, getting onto a career path, the key challenges, the road bumps one should be aware of.
The bumps that you should be aware of. Sometimes people aren't going to support you, and that's a fact.
Yep.
Sometimes you will think you have chosen or you have joined the right organization, and it's not. Exactly. Sometimes you'll think you've chosen the right job, and it's not, and you hate going to work every single day. So there are lots of bumps along the way. Or you've made a plan, you think that, in 5 years' time, I'm going to be here. This is the job I want. This is the job I'm going to go for. And the promotion doesn't come. What if a new superstar comes along and, they've got the right personality or whatever qualities somebody else is looking for? So there are lots of, things that could go wrong. But I think there's that side. There's your choices. There's also human relations, and also sometimes, what happens if there's another credit crunch? When we graduated, the job search time was 12 months was 6 months instead of the ordinary 3 months in which you would be employed. Some people took as long as 9 months to get into a job.
Yeah.
So there's also that. So be ready, think of the what ifs, and nobody can, you don't know until you get there, but, just take the time to educate yourself and ask yourself the many what ifs. And I know a lot of young people don't do that. I certainly was not one of the people who did the what ifs back then, but, I would say that's one of the hardest lessons that, when 2008 came, it's not as if I had all the answers. No. And if I didn't know any better, of course, but, some kind of, the scenarios, this might happen, this might not happen. You put deadlines as to, what should happen by when. What happens then? What if, and these are the things that can also set you back. In your career. You get a new boss. You joined an organization and you were working with somebody who you had a good rapport with, etc., and they were your champion and whatnot. Then organizational reshuffling happens. You get a new boss. Career stuck.
Oh gosh.
So there are many things that can get in the way. But I think if you keep, speaking to people, educating yourself, half of it is relationships, I think. A big part of success has to do with relationships. So cultivate those relationships, speak to people, educate yourself, make sure the skills that are needed in the industry you're interested in are up to date. So just keep learning. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, top 3 things that come to your mind as one should be aware of before making a commitment to something, chosen a career path or a business move or something,
The first thing you have to answer, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Really and truly, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Because everything requires resources, right? There's personal resources, there's financial resources, and the support that you need to get things done.
Yeah.
So having given that thought, does it still make sense? You also have to ask yourself, do I have the capacity and capabilities of making this move? Do I have what this needs?
Exactly.
I mean, sometimes you're not always completely ready, but are you prepared to get up to the place where you need to be? Are you prepared to put in the work?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to go smoothly all the time.
No, not at all.
When challenges come up, does this move make enough sense for you to say, I will take the pain with which it comes? Because there's always the good and the bad. There's the fun stuff and then there's the painful stuff.
Yeah.
Are you prepared to take the painful stuff? Do you like the painful stuff that this, or rather, can you tolerate the painful stuff that this move comes with?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you might be required, for example, to move all the way to the other side of the world. Far away from everything that and you've made this move yourself. Are you prepared to take the pain with which it comes? Sometimes you might be required to move to the other side of the world in order to, for a job, for example. So, are you prepared to take what that comes with? There's, adapting to a new way of being. It takes a lot. There are lots of things that you wouldn't know that will come up. Do you have it in you? Do you have the resources to adapt? What if you get there and it doesn't work out? What's your fallback?
Yes.
What's your backup plan? So I think before committing, think of, does it make sense? Do I have what it takes to actually commit, and not change my mind halfway through or in the middle of things? Are you prepared to take the demands? Everything comes with some unpalatable bits.
That's nicely put.
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you handle it, basically?
Yeah. Understood.
So it takes a lot of self-knowledge, I think.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah.
I want to come back to shades and layers.
Yay, my new baby.
Your new baby. How is it meeting new people virtually now, talking to them? Most of all, what kind of people are you meeting? In what exactly is learning from that?
So another lesson in change management and adaptation. So when I started Shades and Layers, so I was still living in Copenhagen, and the idea came to me that, first of all, I'm living in Copenhagen. I'm a woman of color. I'm a Black woman, and I'm meeting a lot of Black women who I do not see in public life. I joined an organization called Professional Women of Color, ProWalk, and there I met, it reminded me of being in South Africa, where I met a diversity of Black women. Some were scientists, some were entrepreneurs, some were, business types, you just name it. They were all within this network. And I'm thinking, but where are these people? Why am I not seeing them? And why did I not meet them before this? So that was a revelation to me. And I was thinking, and here they are. But also, sporadically and randomly, I'd been meeting all these women. But they just don't. It's almost as if they don't exist. So I was thinking, okay, you know what? It's time to tell some stories now. There is a group of people who will never see themselves or people who look like them, and they're raising children who look like them. So who do they have to look up to? And So, but it also goes back to the original idea behind the work I was doing at the beginning of my so-called career. I don't know if you can call it that, but I want representation has been a big thing for me throughout life. And as I was reassessing where I want things to go, Shades and Layers came up. It was an idea. I would do profile interviews of Black women, particularly the ones who were taking an entrepreneurial journey. It didn't matter at what stage, it wasn't for me to say, we will only celebrate you when you're making $10 million and you're on the cover of Time or Forbes or whatever. There are lots of valid stories out there. And, these paths to entrepreneurship are just as valid, whether they're at the beginning or, in the middle where things are changing or growing or, you're suddenly the superstar of Silicon Valley or whatnot. So I wanted to tell these stories and also to validate them and say, hey, when you're being interviewed, you have to think a lot about what it is that you do. Also helps to remind you of where you've come from. And I thought that would also be an important part of the journey. So I just put it all together and mapped out who I want to speak to, what I wanted to speak to them about. And then I just divided it into themes. I chose the beauty industry first because there was a lot happening. There's a whole natural hair movement in the works and skincare and self-love and whatnot. And I thought, okay, so this is the right story to tell for the time that we are in. And, it's also a new opportunity that's open specifically for women of color to have an impact on their world in a world they've had no control over. And, where else do you find lack of representation other than the beauty industry? The beauty standard does not look like me or you.
No, not at all.
So, but
unfortunately.
Exactly. So, who are the women making an impact here and trying to change the narrative? And then I lined up a bunch of interviews and had those and published them. And then this time around, I decided to talk about wellness, which is another thing. When you think wellness, it's always, the luxury spa, yoga, and it's always somebody thin and blonde standing in front of a mirror in a yoga pose. And I'm thinking, no. But also I wanted to explore the idea of wellness in different, environments. For example, one of the interviews I did for the second season was a woman who runs a nonprofit in a squatter camp in South Africa. So you've got, girls living on the margins and they need to take care of themselves. What does wellness look like under those circumstances? Who coaches these kids? How do they learn to look after themselves, and how do they learn about self-worth, which is a huge part of self-care, and also has an impact on mental wellness, etc. So I had a range of what wellness looks like, and then I explored some spiritual aspects, some mental aspects, physical aspects, and the fitness with fitness influencers. So just kind of broadening the conversation on what wellness is and who the women that are making an impact in their communities. It doesn't have to be global scale, but in their communities, to try and change the narrative and the way that women see themselves through whatever project or company or nonprofit, etc. So that's broadly Shades and Layers. And I know it's developing into something else as I'm contemplating the third season. And yeah, I'm excited. And yeah, I'll be on hiatus over the summer holidays. I need a break. It's been a long year.
Okay.
I'll take a brief break and come back with the third season. And I think it will still be along the lines of wellness. I just need to, line up the right interviews.
Yeah.
For that.
What is your suggestion? And this is definitely not a part of the questions, but I just couldn't stop myself now. What would be your thought or suggestion to any woman of color that is also going through phases, challenging moments, and also not getting the deserved spot or space? Any words of wisdom from you?
Yeah. Community. You've got to seek it out. You really have to seek out, the people who will support your journey. And, there is a unique set of challenges that women of color face, especially if you're in a diaspora, like if you're living in a country outside of, Asia, Africa, South America. I mean, there's a unique set of challenges that you face.
Totally agree.
And a lot of them start with appearance, and then as soon as you open your mouth, people know, not from here. And as people, it doesn't matter who we are, where we're from. It's the strange is always kind of like approached with caution, and anything unusual is kind of we don't like it as human beings. Name one place where foreigners, are loved. I mean,
but then I also keep asking this question: who defines what is usual to define what is unusual?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it has to do with what you grew up with.
Yeah,
you have been taught. Let's say Denmark, where we've both lived. I mean, it's largely homogenous. And what they try to do, at least my impression, is that, when there are foreigners entering the space, you are immediately expected to erase everything that makes you different. You're just supposed to be Danish, but you'll never be quite Danish because number one, you don't look like a Dane and you'll never sound like a Dane.
So you change myself fully.
Yeah, exactly. So define that integration. Define that integration to me. That is so expected. It's never quite good enough. And but I'll always be different. And I think it's very frustrating for a lot of women of color when they come into such spaces that you're not seen. You're actually not seen for who you are. You just expect, you're one of us. But no, I am not. And, when the opportunity arises, you will know very clearly that you're not, whether it's a positive or a negative thing. You will just know that you're not of this place. But that doesn't make you less valuable or, less worthy of being in certain spaces. And I think that's what's so frustrating. So my advice is seek out a community they don't even have to be people from the same country as you. But, there is a set of challenges that you will face, first of all, as a foreigner and as a woman of color.
Yeah.
So seek out a community, seek out support, and, see how people are doing things. What do you have to do? What do you have to learn in order to adapt to this environment? And if you don't have that community, it's very hard. I think the first 3 years of my life in Denmark was very difficult from that perspective. Yes, I met women of color, but I was also busy trying to adapt to a new life, learn a new language and whatnot. So you didn't have that space. But, seek out those people. It's super important, like really, really, really super important, because even all the friends that you have around you who are United Nations, we are the world type. And there's a lot of value in that. I've lived my life that way. But, just seek out people who are facing the same challenges. I think community is a very powerful thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you've definitely touched upon a valuable point. This is something everybody, at least most of us that are the color that we are, have to go through something that is definitely not pleasant or maybe not comfortable discussing out in the open. And the first thing that we try to do is to just shut down and close down and see, oh my God, okay, how do I handle this myself? But it's definitely not possible ourselves. It's not a personal issue. I think it's a global challenge.
Yeah.
And the
I
change.
think, I think we have to recognize that it is a global challenge. It's built into the way our
This is not
society is
pinpoint
built.
one community or one set of people or a group or a company and say this is where the problem is. No, it's not. It's everywhere.
It is no, absolutely, it's a global challenge. I mean, wherever you go in the world, it's all sorts of black and brown people facing similar challenges, and it's built into the way the society is structured. This is an issue of whatever capitalism, whatever you want to call it. There's a system in place, and it's built on certain principles, and those principles require the oppression of black and brown people. And as the world is changing, this is becoming a very, and as this is being raised and being seen for what it is, because more people are educated, the smaller due to technology, we're learning a lot. And as this comes up, it causes a lot of discomfort and a lot of backlash and feelings of guilt, and which are not necessary, by the way. It's just, it's time to have the conversation and see things for what they are and acknowledge your part, regardless of what skin color you are. Acknowledge your part and your participation in this, in this whole system. It's hard not to participate. And that's just a fact. This is the world that we live in. And everybody has their role. Everybody has their part. But, the world is a mess. It is a mess. And for black and brown people, it's challenging. It is challenging. I don't care who says what about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and what. It is a challenge because there is a dominant narrative. There is a dominant culture. And everybody is expected to live in such a way that does not acknowledge other parts of themselves and their own culture and their own languages. And so there's it is a moment of reckoning globally.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah,
this has been an amazing conversation. Is there anything else that you wanted to say that maybe I have missed out that you want to say to the audience?
Oh goodness, I guess life is change. It's all about changing. It's adapting to change constantly. Nothing remains the same. What we talk about today, we will have a completely different conversation if we connect again at the same time next year.
Yeah.
Who would have thought 18 months ago that there'd be a vaccine, for COVID? It was kind of unbelievable, but hey, here we are. So there's change constantly. Next year will look different from what last year looked like. And life will also look different from day to day. So I think I'm living by that rule right now. Life has changed. No 2 days are the same. Which I think is a healthy approach because, man, I think the last year has been quite an education in adaptation and adaptability.
Yeah.
First, homeschooling. I mean, that has been a nightmare for me personally. I've never been that challenged in my life. I had no clue how to handle the homeschooling thing. I mean, how do teachers do it? Of course, they have a different relationship with children, but wow, okay, it was really hard. And it changed the dynamics of home life. Suddenly we're all in the same space 24/7, and it's feeling all kinds of unnatural. You can't go meet your friends. You can't travel to wherever. So it's been learning to make do with what you have. Like
Yeah.
you really have to make things work in the rawest form. Yeah. So that's I would say that change, life is change. That's all I would like to say.
That is amazing. Thuli, if somebody wants to reach out to you for your podcast or just a guidance or something, how do they reach you?
Yay! I love conversations, so you're very welcome to reach out to me. I'm on email, hello@shadesandlayers.com.
Okay.
And you can also just reach out to my Instagram account. I'm very responsive there. That's at Shades and Layers podcast, one word.
Okay.
And yeah, just you can find Shades and Layers on any podcast platform. It's quite widely distributed. Phew, another.
Wow. It is amazing. Thuli, it has been a pleasure talking to you as always.
Thank you so much.
Enjoyed this, and I'm sure a lot of the people that are listening or watching to this would have learned a lot from this. Totally happy. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing it. It's been fun.
Yes.
And we are staying in touch, by the way.
Yes, we are. Pleasure again. Thanks. Have a nice day and a weekend when you get there.
Yeah, when I get there. Yeah, enjoy the rest of it.
You too. Bye-bye. Yet another amazing episode. Thank you so much, Thuli. This was wonderful meeting you after such a long time, virtually though. I wish Shades and Layers, Thuli, and also her family very good luck. And I hope you also would have found something very interesting to go back to from this episode. Please do share your comments in the feedback section. That's exactly how we are learning from each other and also building this community. If you're liking more of such content, please do like, share, and subscribe, and also keep on viewing the episodes in the glacepodcast.org. There is also a possibility now, as you can see, that you can download audio files from the same website or via Podbean. So keep on listening, keep on watching, and stay tuned. This is Gomathi Sankaran signing off from the GLAC studio. Bye-bye.